Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Zacharia. I work for the Office of Signals and Community Services here at the Los Angeles Public Library. Today's program is a voter registration and general election workshop and is brought to you by the City Clerk's Office and the Los Angeles Public Library. Sarah Gonzalez is a project coordinator with the Office of the City Clerk Election Division. She has been with the Election Division for over a decade and has overseen the City Employee Poll Workers Program and the training of community poll workers. Since 2018, she has worked in outreach focusing on voter education. She loves engaging the public and how information empowers Angelinos to ask more questions, educate others, and mobilize to participate in the voting process. Today, Sarah will inform and empower you to register and pre-register eligible voters and make an impact on voter turnout. She will also share key dates to remember, what's on the ballot, how voting has changed in LA County, including the vote by mail and early in-person voting options. And she'll also discuss tools that help you get to know the different jurisdictions you fall under, who represents you now, and how to track your vote by mail ballot. We'll have a brief Q&A after the presentation, so please send us your questions throughout the program. Thank you, and take it away, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be back. We love to meet up with the public library and make sure that we discuss what's going on and help people turn out for the election. So I want to start by saying that this workshop is for everybody. So we know that there are qualifications to register to vote and to vote in an election. But I want to say that the outcome of an election impacts everyone, whether or not you're eligible to mark and cast a ballot. So, for that reason, even if you are not eligible to vote in this election, I want you to join us and stick with us and learn the ways that you can still impact voter turnout and really encourage people to turn out and vote because, whatever measure gets passed or whatever official gets elected, they represent you too, even if you couldn't cast a ballot, right? So thanks for joining us. I'm going to go over a few basics for the election. I really hope if you have questions that you'll drop them into the comments. And I hope that we can do our best to really empower you, as we said, and make you a really confident election participant. Okay. So we had a primary back in June, and the election that's coming up is the general municipal election, and that's coming up really soon on November 8th. So what's a primary and what's a general? Just to give you a little review, the primary election is kind of like an open race, right? Wherever there's seats, there can be as many people as qualify to run for a seat they will run. So for example, back in June, we had, I believe, 17 people running to be your LA City mayor. And the results of the primary show us who the top two vote getters are or who the winner is outright. So if someone back in June were to receive 50% plus one vote, they would have been elected outright and we wouldn't have them in a runoff election for the general. But that didn't happen. So we have the top two vote getters, for example, for the race for mayor now on the general ballot. And so the general election is kind of like when you get to see who are the top two people that are going to kind of duke it out for your vote to be elected. So that's what's coming up on November 8th, our general election, which for the most part has runoff races, so that you get to decide who will officially become the person that represents you. So what's on the ballot? Some things that are on the ballot on the local level for us here in LA City are we are electing our new mayor. We're also electing a city controller, city attorney, and there's the runoff races for council districts 5, 11, 13, and 15. I want to talk a little bit about what are these positions? Why should we care who the mayor is, or why should we turn out to vote? Who represents us? For me, the really important thing about a mayor is that they are the person who kind of proposes the budget and advocates for kind of what should be in there, and ultimately is the person who approves it. And so we know if it's not in the budget, it's not getting paid for. So it's really important that you elect a mayor whose values, as far as what they find is important and what they think we should invest money in, is the same as how you feel, because they're going to be the person that approves or sort of denies that, right, and signs off on it. City controller is a really important person because that person is in charge with making sure that the city is spending your money wisely and that it's not wasteful. And so that person is going to make sure that all of your hard-earned tax dollars are being put to work in an efficient way waste-free and are going to the things that they are supposed to go to, right? The city attorney is the person who represents the city in legal matters. It's pretty important. And then city council districts. Of course, we know it's been in the spotlight this past week about what is city council. Well, just so that you know, the city council is the legislative branch of the city. They are the body that passes city ordinances, otherwise known as city laws, that you have to follow within the city, right? They also form committees to try to solve certain problems, right? And they propose motions and basically guide the direction and the laws of our city. So it's really important that you find out who is the person that represents you. Do you like the job that they're doing? Do you wish that they were doing something different? And so it's good for you to look into who is running to represent you and decide, is this person the person that I want to represent me? We're also voting for our LAUSD board members in districts 2 and 6. So if you happen to live in LAUSD districts 2 and 6, you also have a similar job to do. Our school board are the people who really help to direct the quality of education in LAUSD. So it's a really important job as well. So outside of city measures and issues on the ballot, we also have a lot of federal, county, and other local things happening. On the federal level, we are voting here in California for our U.S. Senator, right? So our senator is up for re-election. So we are deciding who do we want to send to Washington to make federal laws on our behalf. That's your U.S. Senator. On the California level, we are voting for the California State Governor, the Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, our State Controller, State Treasurer, and State Attorney General, also our Insurance Commissioner, and the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. So those are a lot of people who are, going to work for us. So it's really important that you take a look at who's on the ballot and decide who do you want to represent you in Sacramento on a state level. For our state lawmakers, depending on where you live, you may be voting for a state senator or a state assembly member. So this is separate from your federal lawmakers. These are your California lawmakers that make California laws that, again, we all need to follow whether or not we vote in an election, correct? So if a law gets passed by a California lawmaker, it is the law of the land, and we are all now beholden to it, right? So it's really important that if you live in an area where you are going to be voting for a state senator or a state assembly member, you take a closer look and see if that's the person that you want to be doing the job for you. On the county level, we're voting for the assessor. And depending on where you live, you might be voting for a county supervisor. And to give you an example of what a county supervisor is, they're kind of like the county version of a city council person. They are the legislative body of LA County. So we have city council people making laws and forming policy within the city of Los Angeles, and we have the county supervisors who are creating laws and policy on the county level. We also are voting for our sheriff. Our sheriff is up for re-election, and this is a really exciting one. We are voting for over 100 different Superior Court judges California-wide. That's big. So judges can be appointed or they can be elected. And we have the opportunity to elect judges. So it's notoriously difficult to find information on people who are running for judges. So that's one that's kind of challenging to do your election homework, but I really encourage you to do it because who sits on a bench is very important, right? Because one day we or someone we love may be standing before a judge, and we want to make sure that that person, again, is in line with our values and is doing their job the way we wish they would do it. So very exciting stuff. That's a lot of power that we have. It's also a lot of choices that we have to make. So where do you even start, right? So I want to just show you that so far, LA County has sent the voter guide. The Secretary of State, which is your California elections official, also sends you a voter guide that tells you what's on the ballot. Printed inside these booklets sometimes are candidate statements if a candidate submitted one. So that's a really interesting thing to start and read their candidate statement. See how you feel about the person from what they said about themselves. So that's one way to start deciding who you want to vote for. And the other thing that comes in the mail is, we get a lot of mail related to the election, a lot of postcards, a lot of people saying, please, asking for your vote. And you can consider that, of course, as well. Usually on there, there'll also be a list of people who endorsed that candidate. So what is an endorsement? Well, that just means a person or a group has decided that they, as a group or a person, want to support that candidate. So if there is a group that you trust, their opinion, it might mean something to you that they've offered their endorsement for that candidate. Newspapers also will, from time to time, select and make their endorsements as well. So these are things to look out for that might help you make your decision on, running down the ballot. So let's talk about some reminders. The last day to register to vote for the November election is Monday, October 24th. What does that mean? Well, LA County now mails every registered voter a vote by mail ballot automatically. So you need to register by October 24th in order to make sure that the county is going to send you a vote by mail ballot. Okay. What happens if you miss the deadline? Well, luckily, LA County now has vote centers, and all of the vote centers also offer same-day voter registration and conditional voting. So I really encourage everyone who is watching to please check their voter registration, confirm, make sure that you are registered to vote, make sure that the address is correct, because your vote by mail ballot is coming, and if the wrong address is listed on your voter registration, guess what? We're not going to receive a vote by mail ballot to the right address, right? So here's some reasons why you might need to re-register. If you have moved or changed your address, you need to re-register. So sometimes we think, oh, well, I updated my address with the Postal Service, so, that must have changed my registration as well. Not necessarily. Or maybe I went to the DMV and I updated my driver's license. I'm sure that, my registration is up to date as well. Possibly, hopefully, but not certainly, right? So it's really important that we take the time to make sure that our registration is up to date. In a little while, I'll leave you a link where you can check that out. So if you register by the October 24th deadline, you will receive your vote by mail ballot in the mail. If you happen to miss the registration deadline, please don't let that be the reason that you don't vote. Or if you know someone who says, I don't know if I'm registered, and it's after October 24th, you can let them know. They can go to any vote center and still do same-day voter registration and conditionally vote right then and there on that same day. So there's no excuse not to turn out if you're eligible to vote in the election. All right, so let's talk about who can vote. Who's eligible? Well, you have to be a U.S. citizen and you have to be 18 or older. So you may be watching and you may say to yourself, well, I don't qualify. Perhaps you are not a U.S. citizen, or perhaps by November 8th, by November 8th, you won't be 18. Well, what do? Well, I'm sorry, you won't be able to cast a ballot, but you can still help encourage other people to do it. You can still do your election homework and you can decide if you were going to vote, how would you vote? And you can share that information with the eligible voters in your life and encourage them to vote. So, eligibility, you have to be 18 years old or older and you have to be a U.S. citizen. I want to point out there that on my slide, it says Prop 17. Prop 17 passed in California in the last election, and it allows U.S. citizens who are 18 and older and are on parole to be eligible to register and vote. Prior to Prop 17 passing, folks who were on parole had to wait until they had completed parole before they registered and voted. But that's not the case anymore. If they are on parole, they're 18 and older and a U.S. citizen, they are eligible to register and vote. I think that's great news, and I would love it if you could share that information with anyone who you think that might impact. So if you have a loved one or a friend who is on parole, whose system impacted, please tell them that they can qualify to register and vote if they're 18 and older and a U.S. citizen. Sometimes people who are incarcerated and then are released think that they can't vote at all. Maybe they think that they'll never be able to, because in some states, that is the case. But in California, it's not. So if you have a loved one in California who you think qualifies to register and vote, can you please share that information with them and encourage them to participate in the election? Every voice matters and every eligible vote is important. All right, so let's get ready. Now, if you need to update your registration, I encourage you to grab your phone and snap that QR code right there on the slide. That's going to take you to our clerk page. And from there, you can either register to vote for the very first time, or you can view your registration and double check the address is correct, your name is spelled correctly, the party listed is the party you think you're supposed to be listed under, and just check all the details. If it's all correct, fantastic. You're ready for election day. If there's anything there that you think needs to be edited, you can go ahead and click the button to update it, and you can change that information. Please don't feel nervous about updating your registration or making any changes. It's completely allowed. It's encouraged. If you want to perhaps change your party, you can do that there. If you want to update your language preference, maybe you prefer to receive your election information in Spanish, like this one here, you can select another language. And you can just hit update right then and there. If you make a mistake, no big deal. Just snap that QR code one more time and you can go in and edit. There is no penalty for editing your voter registration form. Okay, so I really encourage everyone to take the time to do that. I also really want to encourage you to save that link and to share it with people. So you might say, oh God, that was so helpful. My name was spelled incorrectly and I was able to update it. Well, I'll bet people in your own household probably have something that they need to correct as well, or your friends and family. So you can text the link, you can drop it into your stories on one of your social media accounts, just to share that with people so that you can give other people the chance to check and update their voter registration. All right, so in LA County, we have a few different ways to vote, right? We can, of course, vote by mail. This is the preferred method. LA County, as I mentioned, is automatically sending everyone their vote by mail ballot. I just got mine. So I'm going to take the time to show you what's in here because these have been coming out automatically since 2020. But you might be one of the people out there that's been ignoring it. So this, in case you're wondering, what is this envelope that keeps coming to my house? This is your vote by mail ballot. And what's inside is super helpful. It already comes with a pre-posted return envelope. You don't even have to find a stamp. And then your vote by mail ballot is so easy to fill out. It's just fill in the bubble. And it comes with your I voted sticker already, so you can peel off your sticker, wear it proudly, post it on social media to encourage other people to check their mail. Now, these have begun to be mailed out. If you haven't received yours, don't worry. It takes a few weeks. They get mailed out in waves because there's millions and millions of them that need to go out. But check your mail. Check your mail to see if you've received your vote by mail ballot. If you haven't seen a vote by mail ballot in LA County, this is what it looks like. It's several pages. And it's one long sheet, right? So for instance, mine this time around is 6 whole pages. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to grab a pen and I'm going to work my way through my ballot. And if I come across something I'm not sure about, I can stop and pull up my phone and look it up, right? So take your time. I do want to mention your ballot is yours. You mark it however you want to mark it. Now, let's say I come across something and I'm really not sure how I want to vote. I can skip it and come back to it later, or I can skip it altogether. There's no reason why you can't leave something blank. It's yours. If you are not ready to choose something, or you really just don't know and you don't want to select yes or no, or you don't know which candidate and it's time to vote, you can skip it. It's okay. In an ideal world, we have all the time in the world to do our election research and fill out our ballot completely, but you don't have to. So I really want to encourage you to vote for anything that you're ready to vote for. If that's one thing on this whole ballot, that's valid. Please vote for that one thing and return your ballot voting for that one thing. If we just want to hear your voice is important. Electing people that represent you is important. So this is the vote by mail ballot. Once I'm done marking it, I'm going to place it into my return envelope. On the front of the envelope, there's some information that I need to fill out. I also need to sign my envelope, and then I'm going to seal it. And as I mentioned, it's already pre-posted. I don't even need to find a stamp. So there's 3 ways, as you can see on the screen, to return your vote by mail ballot. You can put it in your mailbox. So your mailbox at your home, and your postal person will pick it up the next time they're dropping off mail. Option number 2 is dropping it off at an LA County secure ballot drop box. That's my favorite thing to do. I put my kiddo in the stroller and I go walking to the park nearby that has one and I go drop it off in person. These are wonderful. They are secure, and the ballots that are inside are retrieved by county employees and taken right straight to the county registrar's office, where they are stored until it is time to count the ballots. So it's a great option. I love it. The third option is you can drop off your ballot at any vote center. So you can go to any vote center in LA County and go straight to the drop box. You don't need to wait in line if there is a line. And one of the nice vote center workers will show you right to the box and let you drop it in. Sound good? That's also really great just in case maybe you damage your return envelope or you misplace it and you need a new one. You can take your ballot with you right over there and ask them, say, hey, I need a replacement envelope for my vote by mail ballot. They'll have some, they'll give one to you, and you can fill it out again and drop your ballot in there and drop it off. So what happens if you lose your vote by mail ballot, damage it altogether, or maybe you never receive it? Or maybe you did receive it, but you really want to vote in person. You absolutely can. So LA County, of course, has safe in-person voting, and they have vote centers all throughout the county. You can go to lavote.gov, that's the county's website, to look up the nearest vote center to you. And again, you can go to any vote center in LA County. It doesn't have to be the one nearest you. If you want to go vote at a vote center after work or after church on the weekend, you're welcome to. There is a lot of early voting. So the vote centers are open for 10 days. So that's a lot of early voting. All vote centers are open for a total of 4 days, meaning election day plus Saturday, Sunday, and Friday before, right? So a lot of early voting opportunities there. So go to lavote.gov, find the vote center you want to go to, and stop by. I really encourage you to vote early if you're going to vote in person, because why wait in a line on election day when you can go when there's no line, right? So, and just pick the place that's most convenient for you, and take the whole family, take your friends, take a selfie, and tell people that you went to go vote. So I want to talk about ways that we can be involved in this election. Of course, we want everyone who's eligible to register and vote by the deadline, which is Monday, October 24th. And of course, we want you all to cast a ballot if you're eligible. But I want to give you some tools for your preparation in voting, as well as things that you can do to help get out the vote. Okay. The first one is I want to highlight a website that's super handy. It's called Neighborhood Info. So it's neighborhoodinfo.lacity.org. This is a great site because when you get there, you plug in your address of where you live. And what happens when you hit go is it populates all of the different people and districts that you live in. So you might live in LA City, which is part of LA County and part of LAUSD and in the state of California. So all of these are jurisdictions that you live in and have representatives. And so you might wonder, well, who represents me right now? Go to Neighborhood Info, plug in your address, and it gives you a list of everyone who represents you on all of these different levels. It's a really handy tool. The next one I want you to remember and maybe mark down is California Ballot Tracks. This is a great way to track your ballot. So right now, let's say you haven't received your vote by mail ballot yet. You can go to California Ballot Tracks and pop in the populate what they're asking you for, the details, and it will tell you where your ballot is. It might say your ballot is being prepared. That means it's still at the registrar's office. It might say your ballot is en route to you, meaning it's been mailed out to you. Look in your mailbox. Now, let's say I've already voted on my ballot and I put it in the envelope and I dropped it off in the drop box. And 2 days later, I'm wondering, gosh, I hope my ballot got there safely. I can go to californiaballottracks.net and I can put in, what it's asking for, and I can look up to see where my ballot is. It might say your ballot is in transit. It might say your ballot has been received by the county and is waiting to be counted. And after election day, I can finally look back and say, and let it tell me that your ballot has been counted. So you can follow and track your vote by mail ballot. It's a fantastic tool. So take note of that. California.ballottracks.net. Again, a great one to text to people in case they're wondering. It's a great one to post on social media. And of course, I want to remind everyone to check your voter registration. You can do this by using the QR code on the slide before, or you can go to voterstatus.sos.ca.gov and you can look it up there. The last thing I want to highlight is that LA County is always looking for election workers. And so you do not need to be a U.S. citizen to be a election worker. You can be a legal permanent resident as well. Bilingual community members are always highly encouraged to serve as vote center workers because, there's vote centers where we're in areas where there's a big population of people who speak a particular language outside of English. And it's so helpful to have someone there that knows what they're doing and can help them vote. You don't need any experience to be a vote center worker because everyone attends a training and there's an online training and in-person training. So they'll teach you everything that you need to know to be a wonderful, helpful vote center worker. So that's what I have for you today. I really want to encourage everyone to look out in the mail for the vote by mail ballot, as well as all of the different voter guides. How do you know if a voter guide is nonpartisan? Well, it's going to have a seal. This one's the county seal. So if you look out for one with the city seal, we send out a voter information pamphlet. The county sends out their booklet and the state also sends out theirs. So those are really good tools. Some other tools that I really love, I love our local public radio station, KPCC. They do a wonderful thing called the voter game plan. And they interview people, especially judges. As I mentioned, it's so hard to get information on judges that are up for election. And they do their best to do interviews. So I get to listen to interviews with judges and really hear, does this person sound sincere? Do I believe them? Do I like what they have to say? Do I like their policies? So KPCC Voter Game Plan is fantastic. Also, Ballotpedia is a wonderful nonpartisan resource that I like to use, and the League of Women Voters also provides their nonpartisan voter guide. So there's a lot of nonpartisan organizations out there that create voter guides that are just something for you to consider. So if you can please make some time to do some homework, get together with a friend or a family member or your spouse and just decide, what is it that we want to vote on, and that doesn't have to be the same thing. You guys can differ on opinions, but it's really nice to get together and do that because at the end of the day, someone will get elected and someone will work for you and make choices for you. And at the end of the day, measures and propositions will get passed that use your tax dollars, and you want to be able to have a say as to whether or not you think those are good ways of using your money.
Well, I'm back. Thank you, Sarah, for a great presentation. I just got mine in the mail, so my husband and I are going to do that this weekend. So let's get to the questions. So one question I have is, remind us again, what should I do if I want to vote but I missed the deadline to register?
Yes, so big reminder, we are recording this on October 18th. You've got a few days. The registration deadline is Monday, October 24th. The fastest way to register is to do it online. So you can go to our clerk website, use that QR code that you saw here in the recording, or you can go to voterstatus.sos.ca.gov and register online. I swear it takes 2 minutes. If you're doing it online or in person on a form, which, by the way, are available at all of our public libraries here in Los Angeles, there is a display box with voter registration forms there available. Thank you so much for partnering with us and displaying those and providing them to the public. So register by October 24th. But if you miss the deadline, what do? You can go to any vote center once early voting begins. So remember, there's going to be a lot of vote centers that are open for 10 days. That's a lot of opportunity to vote. There's no excuse not to. And then all of the vote centers will be open for a total of 4 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of election day. So 4 days. And so you can go there and any vote center worker will help you with same day voter registration and you can vote right then and there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. Let's get next question. Why is it so important to check your voter registration even if you haven't moved?
Yeah, that's a good one. I help people when we're out in the field tabling to look up their registration. And most people think, I'm sure it's fine, but I'll do it just because you're offering. And so often the details are incorrect, whether it's a name being misspelled, which can be confusing when you go and vote in person, right? Or maybe the address is off, especially if you live in an apartment. Sometimes the unit gets left off. You know, everybody tries their best, whether it's us or the lovely people who work for the DMV or the county registrar's office, but we're all human and we make mistakes. So when someone was doing data entry, they might have left something off. So it's really important that we double check the address because, of course, now we know our vote by mail ballot's getting mailed out. So we definitely want to make sure that the address is correct. So even if you haven't moved, there are times where the address is incorrect, off by a number, or a unit's been left off. So we want to check that. The other reason is because you might want to check which party you're registered under. And I say this because there was actually a lot of folks who were very well-meaning, but they made a funny mistake back in 2018. Or was it 2016? Back in 2016. Oh my goodness, it's been so long. So, for example, back in 2016, in the primary, it was Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders vying for the Democratic Party's nomination to be president, right? Well, back before he ran, Bernie Sanders was an independent. That means that he didn't have a party. He was not a Democrat or a Republican. He was nonpartisan, otherwise known as an independent. And so people thought, well, Bernie's independent. I love him. I want to vote for him. I want to be independent. And they went and re-registered. And there happens to be a party called the American Independent Party, which is not the same thing as being an independent voter. And so a lot of people mistakenly re-registered under that party because they thought that's what they needed to do in order to vote for Bernie. So big confusion. It was a little frustrating for people on that day. I was out there at the polling place and several people were, kind of frustrated. After that election, I still help people look up their registration and they're like, oh yeah, I am registered wrong. So checking your party and making sure that you're registered with the party you think you are is a really good idea. And so we just really want everyone to just take 3 minutes and look it up, make sure they're ready to go. Everything's spelled correctly, the address is correct, and they're registered with the party that they think they're registered with.
Those are great tips. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I think we have a few more questions. What do I do if I did not receive my vote by mail ballot?
Great question. So if you didn't receive it in the mail, you can contact the county because they can send you a new one. The first thing I would do, though, is go to california.ballottracks.net and figure out where it's at because it might say that it's in transit. However, if it says that it's been mailed out and you haven't received it, it'll also even tell you the date that it got mailed out. So let's say it says it got mailed out 8 days ago. This is LA County. It should have gotten to you in a day or two, right? So that probably means it's lost or the address is incorrect, right? So what can we do about it now? Well, you can request a replacement one, so you can contact the county, and if there's time, they will mail you another one if you want to vote by mail. However, you don't have to. So if it's okay with you, you can go to any vote center and still vote in person. Before we had the vote center model and you didn't have your vote by mail ballot, the vote center worker would have to help you vote provisionally just to make sure that you didn't already mail one out because, they don't know if you did or not. You might be, telling the truth, you might not. So they had to help you vote provisionally. But now what's fantastic is that there is a special kind of QR for each one of the voters. So if you go and vote in person, they can cancel your vote by mail ballot. So this one, even if it gets mailed back by someone other than you, heaven forbid, it can be stopped before it's counted. It can be identified and pulled and not counted. So you can go to any vote center and vote in person. They'll help you do that. So don't be nervous. Vote center workers are very helpful and very nice. They'll help you do whatever it is that you need to do. So if you did not receive it, you can take a look at ballot tracks and see if it's even been mailed out yet. If it's being prepared, it's coming. But if it was mailed out and you think, I think it got lost or I think my address is incorrect, I would make the time to go to any vote center. You can look up their location and hours at lavote.gov.
Thank you. And one more question. What can I do to be a more informed voter and confidently mark my ballot?
Yeah, I think just really talking to people in your life and saying, hey, we spend hours watching, binge watching this series for 4 hours. Why don't we spend 20 minutes just looking through our ballot together? I think is step number one, right? So it's really important. I know we're all so tired and we have so many things to do. But, elections don't happen every day. So let's open up our vote by mail ballot. Let's open up our, voter guide and let's mark what we can. How about we go through and mark what we know we're ready to vote for? And then from there, we know what we need to do extra homework on. And I did mention a few resources. I love the KPCC voter game plan. I love Ballotpedia. It's very informative. Or you can even just do a plain old Google search on your phone for, the race for that. And you can see who's endorsed and who said what. You can read the candidate statements. However, if I was running for office, I might say wonderful things about myself. So it's definitely a little biased. But there's a lot of tools out there. And I think the number one thing is don't be nervous. You don't need to be a very hyper political person to be a good voter. We're just asking you, who do you think's qualified to represent you, right? You don't need to be super informed or super involved or watch the news every night to be a good voter. And again, your ballot is yours. Vote for what you're ready to vote for. Don't be intimidated if there's something that you're not ready to make a decision about. You could skip it. You can leave it blank. And if you're ready to make a decision, go ahead and mark it. But we want you to submit your ballot. We want you to vote on whatever you're ready to vote for. And like I said, if it's 1 or 2 or 3 things on this big 6-page ballot, then vote for those 3 things and submit your ballot.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. I think those are the only questions we have. So if anyone missed any part of this presentation, it will be available for viewing again on LAPL's YouTube channel, and that's at www.youtube.com/Los Angeles Library. And then at 1 o'clock today, we have a Spanish language version with Sarah of this workshop. So check that out. And additionally, for more information on voting, you can visit our voter information page at lapl.org/vote. And thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.